What's up, guys? Welcome back to I Love This Shit. Sorry for the very long delay in episodes. Like I keep saying, life gets in the way, work gets in the way, just everything gets in the way of stuff, man. I didn't think it would be that hard to just sit down and talk to you guys, but sometimes it can be. Also because I am somewhat of a perfectionist in ways. I struggle with trying to bring you guys very good episodes and not just churning them out in what I think would be not very good episodes, even though I'm sure you guys would still love to hear anything I put out because I've gotten nothing but great feedback from you guys and I'm so thankful for it. Here we go already with me thanking you guys for everything, which again, I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in and listening. I check my download stats a lot, especially when a new episode is released. I'm constantly checking it to see how many times people have, downloaded it and listened to it and all that. But I haven't been doing it since I haven't had any new episodes out. But I just got the urge to randomly check yesterday, and holy shit, you guys are still downloading them pretty consistently. I'm getting between like 5 and 10 downloads a day. Some days I have 0, but yesterday I think I had 10 or over 10, which to me is still crazy that I'm not putting out any new episodes, and yet it's still out there being downloaded to listen to, and I really don't know how it's spreading so well, but I'm really glad and thankful that it is. So anyway, we're gonna get this ball rolling here. This will probably be a short episode because I'm not gonna drag out the subject. So yeah, let's get right into it, guys. Alright guys, so today what I really want to talk to you guys about is podcasts. There's a little inception for you, a podcast talking about podcasts. I've been telling you guys that I've been wanting to make an episode like this about my recommendations to you guys of what I think you would like and just good podcasts in general. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my podcast listening app and just run down the list of what I listen to and tell you guys the things I really like about it and why I enjoy listening to it. And if it sounds right up your alley, let me know if you listen to some of the episodes and which ones you really liked. First off though, I will tell you guys which podcast apps I use because everybody's different on the apps they use. I have noticed that the biggest platform that my podcasts are downloaded on, of course, is Apple Podcasts and or iTunes, which iTunes really surprises me because I feel like not a lot of people use iTunes so much anymore because that you have to download straight to your computer and put on your phone or listening device. But that's pretty cool that a lot of people do it from iTunes. So I started out using a really great app called Castbox. I really don't know how I came across it. Just probably, randomly searching for podcast apps when I got back into podcasting. Listening to podcasts. And it's a really cool app. It's got some great features. They do where each individual episode can have its own artwork for each individual episodes, which not a lot of the main big podcasting apps do that for whatever reason. It's kind of strange, but that's what I like about that one is it does the individual artwork. And there's cool little features. You can manage your subscriptions. You can order them in any way you want. There's little badges up there that tell you how many new episodes there are and or how many you haven't listened to yet. You can record straight into this app for your own channel of if you wanted to podcast. And, that's pretty cool. I like that feature, even though I don't particularly record straight to my phone because I just don't like that idea for myself. I'm sure for some people who don't have laptops, they just get a little microphone they can plug right into their phone, like with their headphones or whatever. That's a cool little feature. It's very social too. It has a comments area for each individual episode, as well as the channel as a whole, which I don't think I've really seen that on any other podcasting apps that I've looked at. They also have a great homepage. They have tons of recommendations for you. Of course, they have the top shows, the most downloaded ones, the most popular ones. But then, of course, for me, it's got a book lovers section. You keep scrolling down. It's got a true crime section, personal development, scary stories, recommendations personally for you, the editor's picks, new shows, YouTubers' podcasts, and opinions, music, comedy, news, just all the regular stuff. But it's just kind of cool how it's all laid out, perfectly for you. Whereas some other apps have it's kind of a pain in the ass to look for recommendations because they basically just give you the most popular in that category as opposed to what you're searching for, really. However, I did stop using Castbox for a while just because they were doing tons of updates, which is really cool, but some things were getting lost or there were lots of bugs. Like, for those of you who live in America, I have T-Mobile, which for those of you that know and have T-Mobile, they do not have the best service at all. And I tend to listen to my podcasts at work, and, streaming it just drains your battery. And since T-Mobile has terrible service, I usually will download them while I'm at home on the Wi-Fi. So if I'm out and about, I can't download them on the go, really, because like I said, the service is terrible. So it's not really good for that. But they were having issues with their downloading. You click download and it just wouldn't do it. It would just constantly stay in the download queue for whatever reason, and that really bugged me. So I had to go seek a different app, which somehow led me to the Google Play Music app, and it's a really good app. It's got some great features, like after you listen to an episode, after it's completed, it will automatically delete it for you unless you tell it not to do that. I'm someone who doesn't, for the most part, repeat listen episodes of podcasts, so that was perfect. You don't have to worry about it taking up space on your phone. As soon as you finish it, it's already gone. That's a really cool feature that I like. I love that the artwork on it is gigantic, although it's kind of their niche, I guess. It gets cut off on the sides and the top and bottom for whatever reason. I don't know why they decided to go with that kind of look, but I do like that the artwork is huge. It takes up damn near your whole screen, which I think is really cool. And I like that in your subscribed podcast area, it's got them all laid out nice and beautiful with big album art, and it organizes them in order of new releases. So, if it's a Monday and that's when your favorite podcast has a new episode out, it goes right to the top, and so on and so forth. You just cycle them out. The newer ones get pushed to the top, and it's a cool little feature, especially if you're just looking for whatever the new episodes are for that particular podcast. There you go, right there up top. Although they are lacking in the browsing feature, all it is really is top downloads for whatever category. They have tons of categories for you to look at, but again, it's just the top downloaded, the top listened to podcasts for that particular genre or whatever it is you're looking for. And it really only shows you about 50 results, if that, for whatever category you're looking at. And that's kind of a bummer. You kind of just want an endless scroll, or at least, 300 at least, something like that, because 50, that's obviously that is just the top listen to podcast, and that's not what everyone wants to listen to. But what I use on the daily, what I use all the time, it's become my new favorite app, is the dedicated Google Podcasts app. They finally released their own dedicated app to podcasting. By they, I mean Google. Apple has had Apple Podcasts for quite a while now. Everyone was waiting for Google to finally do it, and they finally got on it. And they didn't even announce it, really. It was just, I heard that they were going to release one, and then, that was it. You just heard they were going to. And, a few weeks went by after that announcement, and I decided to just go on the Play Store and look it up, and there it was. No announcement or anything. I just typed in podcast, and it was nowhere in the results. I actually had to type in Google Podcasts, and then it finally showed up. It's like, people, this is your store for apps. Why wouldn't you put your specific app to the top of the list when you search for something? But, that's just me. Now, since it is Google Podcasts, it isn't anything like the Google Play Music app, the podcast section of Google Play, the music app. It looks totally different. It's very minimalistic, very, very minimalistic, and it's kind of nice. It's a little refreshing because nothing's cluttered. It's, as soon as you open it up, there's your podcast laid out in a grid of 12, and you just swipe pages, and there you go. Right below that it says For You. It's new episodes of the podcast you subscribe to. In progress, that's obvious. It's ones you started and haven't finished. And then a download section. And then you go scroll down from there, and it says popular for listeners of this podcast. And then it says top podcasts in TV and film and comedy, music, and, just tons of recommendations. Although, again, they limit their recommendations on here to about, I'd say, 20, maybe. So it's a little hard to try to discover something new unless you know specifically what it is you're looking for. And they don't have that feature where as soon as you're done with listening to an episode, it doesn't delete it immediately. You can choose to delete it after 24 hours, after 7 days, or never. So I would like to have that feature back of being able to have it deleted immediately after finishing it. But again, personal preference, that's just me. It's not a knock on them. The only thing is I don't understand why they wouldn't keep more or less the same features as their previous app, but I'm not an app developer. What do I know? And for the most part, that's pretty much it on the Google Podcast app. That's why I like it. It's so simplistic, although the actual player section is very, very small. It's just a little, maybe a third of the screen. You don't even get to see the album art in full. It's a tiny little square off to the side, and you just have your play, skip back, skip forward, info, and your play speed, and that's about it. Not much to really not much to really look at. Like I said, I'm someone who likes album art, the artwork for it, so I would like that to be a little bigger, but again, it's just an aesthetic. All right, so finally, moving on to the reason why you guys are here, to hear what I listen to. These are I kind of stick with the same type of podcast. It's mostly interviews with celebrities, just because I like that it's them having a conversation and not them having to necessarily promote something or kind of not really put up a front, but you know what I mean? When they're on talk shows, they have to, it's already planned out for the most part what they're going to say, what they're going to do, whereas this is just them having a 2-hour long conversation with the interviewer, and for the most part, the ones I listen to, the interviewer is another celebrity, and that's really nice because they're pretty laid back people, and they like to just, like I said, have that conversation, and it's good. It's basically how I would want my podcast to turn into, which you've already heard with the Keelan Patrick Burke episode. I want it to be a lot more like that in the future when I have that luxury of being able to have an interview for every episode along with my special episodes. I've said this before, so I'm digressing. The first one that I have on here is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. For those of you who don't know Dax Shepard, he will probably hate me for saying this, but you will know him mostly from the MTV show Punk'd, which he hates constantly being known for. He's like, man, I've done other things. He directed the and wrote that Chips movie, which I have never seen, but I've heard it's actually pretty funny. He was on that show Parenthood as well, which I just started watching. I'm only 3-4 episodes in, but it's really good. I really love the movie, so I decided to finally check out the series, and it's really good so far. And he started off his podcast talking to his wife, Kristen Bell, of course, and he's had a handful of people from the Parenthood TV series on there. He's had Lauren Graham and Erica Christensen and Mae Whitman, and he's had some of my favorite people on here that were really interesting to listen to, like he had Seth Green on there. He was really good to listen to. Joel McHale actually had a really good episode. Johnny Knoxville, that's always fun to listen to. Rapper Talib Kweli, for those of you who know Talib, that was a great episode, man. That was a 3-hour-long episode, too. That was a really great interview. He recently had Mila Kunis on there. That was actually a very good episode. Vincent D'Onofrio, great actor, so that was, of course, a great episode. Really cool guy. Very laid back. I don't know what I was expecting, but that kind of shocked me how just laid back and relaxed he was. And what I really like on this show is after they're done doing the interview, he has a segment with his producer / friend, Monica, and she fact checks the entire episode. And anything he or the guest got wrong, she goes and tells them, where they got it wrong. And it's just fun to listen to. Their banter is really funny. I really like that it's, a friend and not just somebody he hired to do that. And she's really smart. She knows what she's doing. They get along really well. Like I said, their banter is very funny. You can tell they've been friends for a while. And, you also learn things because there's times where Dax or the guest will say something and, you think that's right too, but then Monica's like, it's a common misconception. It's actually this and not that. I don't know. I just like that portion of the show. That's a very unique take on it. Next up on my subscription list is The Weekly Planet. I really don't know how I came across this podcast. It's just described as The Weekly Planet covers all things movies, TV shows, and comics. And that's pretty much all comic book related for the most part. They do a lot of, they'll do Jurassic Park or, just franchises. It's not strictly to comic book material, but they do a lot of, I guess, the more popular things. And they're 2 Australian guys, so already that makes it funny to me just because having an American accent is boring because that's what you hear all the time. So when you hear other people's accents, it's really fun and makes other things funnier. At least to me anyway. I don't know about other people. I'm sure other people like accents. But they're very, very funny together. Their banter's really good. Sometimes they recorded in one of the guys' living room, and every now and then his wife will pop in and kind of interrupt, and they'll, argue, you're interrupting us, this and that, and it's really funny. I just like that it's very very genuine. They're always like messing around with the dog that's there because he's getting in the way or bumping into stuff, and it's just fun, and I really like it. It's really funny. It's good to just listen to if you want to just kind of relax and have a good little laugh. There's really not much else to say about it because actually the way their show is structured is they always start it off the same way, just with the introductions and whatnot. And then they'll go on to comic book movie news or just movie pop culture news in general. That'll go on for maybe, depending on the episode, how much news there was, between 30 and 45 minutes-ish. And then they'll go into the movie they're reviewing at that time. And it's cool because they timestamp it, and they'll do a spoilers and non-spoilers section of the show. And if I haven't seen the movie, I just skip it altogether because I want to go in totally unknowing, and then I'll go back and listen to that part of the episode. And after the reviews, they always do a section called What We Reading, What We Gonna Read. And it's usually about the comic books they're reading at that time or what they're gonna read, but they also do what they're watching, like TV shows they've binge watched or trying to catch up on, or even movies. it's a pretty broad category. It's not just what they're reading. It's, again, what they're listening to, what they're watching, things like that. And then they always end it with letters from listeners, and that's always really cool. I love when they do that. I wish I got letters from some of you. It's all good. And it's just very fun. They're very interactive with everybody, and I really like that aspect of it. And then they close out the show. It's a fun show to listen to. The Weekly Planet. Give it a listen. Next up, we have a podcast called Bunny Ears. It's really just it's a podcast really about nothing almost. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's Macaulay Culkin of Home Alone fame. Yes, that Macaulay Culkin. Along with his friend Matt Cohen. And they just kind of BS. They'll pick a general subject to talk about, and they just BS about it for an hour or so. And there's really no structure to it. They just, like I said, they pick a topic for that episode and just talk about it. That's really it. And it's entertaining to listen to them BS about it. Every now and then they'll have a guest on there. Like they had Seth Green on there. They just recently had Freddie Prinze Jr. on there. And Dan Fogler. Those are really good episodes. They had one where they went to WrestleMania and talked to a few of the wrestlers before they went out on stage, in the rink, whatever. It's just fun to listen to. They, not all the time, but usually whenever they have a guest, they'll play a game that they finally dubbed Clock Blockers, where they have a chess clock, and they'll say a really broad category like. So they'll say Marvel and DC characters, and they'll start their timer as soon as they name one off. They hit the timer, and the other person's timer goes. That person says another character. They hit their timer. It's just, I think they set it for 2 minutes, and it's just whoever runs out of time first loses. Which I might have to steal that game, because I'm trying to, for guests or people that I have in front of me that I can record, not actually in person and not over Skype. I've been trying to come up with a fun game to play like that, and I'm very bad at coming up with games that are entertaining for you guys to just listen to, and that's a very fun game to listen to. So I might have to steal that idea from them and see what happens. Next up is Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, I should say, because that's how he says it. And for those of you who don't know who Michael Rosenbaum is, he played Lex Luthor on the television series Smallville. He's also been in other movies. He's written and directed a few. Now he does stand-up comedy, which is pretty cool. He's a really cool guy. Very, very mellow, laid-back guy. I don't know how I came across him having a podcast, but it's very good. It actually got picked up from Unqualified Media, which is Anna Faris's podcasting company. She has her own, which I will talk about in a little bit, called Unqualified. And it's cool that he linked up with them, and they're the ones that produce his show now. Again, it's more the same of just an interview show. He has guests on there. He started off with Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent on Smallville. And he's had tons of great people on there. He had Kristen Bell on there. He had Colin Hanks, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Seth Green. It's all very interesting, and I love. It's a great title. He starts off every episode telling the guest, "Thank you for allowing me to be inside of you today." Just, you gotta love double entendres. I love stuff like that. And there's really no structure. They just BS for an hour or two, and that's all there is to it. No frills, no nothing. I really like it. It's a great podcast to listen to. Next up, we have one of my all-time favorites, as you guys may or may not seen on social media, The Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. I don't have to talk too much about it, even though I could. It's a Stephen King podcast. They have been going in chronological order, reading all of Stephen King's novels, and they review it, which is not a short form review. Sometimes they go into the 3-hour mark, or they'll break it up into multiple episodes, and each one is at least 2 hours. There's a handful of them that do it. They're not all on the same episode together. They'll mix it up every now and then. and they typically break it down into categories, such as it starts off with the history of the novel, the hook of the novel, the structure and format, the heroes and villains, the cemetery, which is where they talk about the scary parts of the book. If I'm not mistaken, I might be getting it confused with another section. And then they do Word Processor of the Gods, which is a little nod to a Stephen King story of the same name, which focuses on like the writing style of the novel and things of that sort. And then they go on to a section called Pound Cake, which is anytime if that novel has like sex scenes or sexual references, they just kind of talk about it. Whereas, because it's funny, King's not always the best at doing sex scenes or sexual references. They can come off as very cheesy or over the top, and it's a funny little segment that they do. They do King's Dominion, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's all of the tropes of Stephen King, and they just describe how it pertains to that particular novel. They do their overall thoughts, and they rate it on Pennywise Clown Noses on a scale of 1 to 5 or 0 to 5. And then they talk about the adaptations that particular novel has, if any. And then and then their little outro. It's, if you love Stephen King, you'll love it. I'm sure most of you have probably already listened to it. It's a great one if you love listening to, if you love Stephen King in general. Up next is Star Talk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you guys don't know who astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson is, just turn this off and unsubscribe. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. Neil deGrasse Tyson has become one of my favorite people in the past couple years. I love his personality. I love his smarts. I love how he has such a passion for his job and what he does. It's not even a job to him. You know, he's living his dream. He said when he was 9 years old, someone asked him what he wanted to be, and he said astrophysicist, and nobody ever asked him what he wanted to be ever again, because, you know, when a 9-year-old says astrophysicist, you kind of just say okay and walk away. And, you know, damn if he's not one of the greats in astrophysics. He's definitely a successor of Carl Sagan. Yeah, and, you know, they just talk any and everything related to astrophysics, to the galaxy, to science. I love science and anything to do with space. And sometimes they'll have guests on, like Bill Nye is a regular guest on there. They have his co-host Chuck Nice, who's a comedian, and they pair each other really well. They bounce off each other very good with their banter and whatnot. Sometimes they'll have celebrity guests, and one of my favorite types of shows that they do is Cosmic Queries, which is they take fan questions from all over the internet, emailed in through Facebook, through Twitter, whatever. And it's very fun because, you know, if you ever have any questions about science that it's kind of hard to find the answer to, Neil's the man. And he'll straight up tell you, hey, if I don't know the answer, I'll say I don't know. He knows he's not all-knowing, because who is? Love Neil. Listen to Star Talk. It's so much fun if you love science and space. I also listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, but I don't listen to that one as often because I think he does... Damn, he has something like 3 episodes a week, and I don't listen to every episode because there's a lot of people on there that I don't know who they are. I kind of just stick to the people I know. Like, he had Macaulay Culkin on there just this past week. I listened to that episode last night, and it was very good. Kevin Smith has been on there 3 or 4 times. That's always good to listen to. Neil deGrasse Tyson is on there. It's a good episode, or, you know, fun show to listen to. Again, it's just the 2 celebrities just BSing. Again, no frills, just a good conversation. But like I said, I don't listen to every single one. He's been doing this for, man, I don't know how many years now, but he's up to episode 1156 as of 19 hours ago. Jesus, he had 2 in the same day. It says 20 hours ago, 19 hours ago. That's insane, man. I don't know how the hell he has time to do so many and have them all backstocked like that, because that's insane. I also listened to The Nerdist when it was The Nerdist with Chris Hardwick. He then changed it to ID10T with Chris Hardwick because I guess Nerdist is part of another company now, and they told him if he keeps the name The Nerdist, then of course they have to get profits for it and whatnot. So he just decided to change the name to ID10T, which is a computer error. Usually, if you have a tech look at your computer or whatnot, and it comes up with an ID10T, which if you look at it, it spells out idiot. If you get that error, that usually tells them it's by fault of the user, not the computer itself. Usually it's the user that screwed something up. So it's a pretty good, I think it's a clever name. But he has been on hiatus lately due to his whole, abuse scandal and whatnot, which, I'm not taking sides on this. There's no concrete evidence to support either's argument, and it does kind of suck because I was always kind of on the fence about Chris Hardwick. I always thought he was kind of a douche, but, just seeing him from hosting like Talking Dead and just when he was on G4, things like that. But then after listening to The Nerdist, I realized he's actually a very smart guy, very bright, and this new thing with him just kind of sucks for newer people because, they're always going to take the woman's side. Again, I'm not taking sides. I'm not saying she's right, he's wrong, or he's right, she's wrong. No one's ever really going to know the truth. It's two sides to every story, or in this case, three sides, because, there's his side, her side, and the right one. So, but nonetheless, again, he just does interviews with celebrities. I don't listen to every single episode because I don't know everybody that's on there, and I know that's kind of pandering to just only listen to the people I know, but that's why I listen to it, and that's why he has a variety, because I may not know the person, but 50 other people might, and so on and so forth. And there's also the podcast I mentioned earlier by Anna Faris, which is called Anna Faris is Unqualified. It's a very good show. Again, I don't listen to every episode, just the people I know, but it's a great show. Oh man, the episode I have to talk about is the episode with Terry Crews. For those of you who don't know who Terry Crews is, I don't know how that's possible, but, he's an actor and comedian. He's on the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was in the movie White Chicks. He's in a bunch of things. He has also become one of my favorite people. I've always liked him, but after hearing him on a few podcasts like Star Talk and Anna Faris's, I just had a newfound respect for him. Just great human being. Just a beautiful person, man. Look up any podcast episodes he's been on, especially the ones on Star Talk and Anna Faris's. But what they do is, again, they just kind of BS and we'll talk for an hour or so, and then they will take a listener call, and they present their problem on what they're having, and Anna and the guest give their unqualified advice. It's a cool little section that they do. Sometimes you get some funny answers. Sometimes you get some very sad stories that people need help with. There's been a couple times where they're like, you guys have to go to somebody professional because this is such a big deal that, we don't even want to try to fix it, but we'll give you our full support in any way we can. Great podcast. I really like what she does on there. It suits her very well, and she needs to keep doing it. Keep on, Anna. Keep on. I also listen to the Stephen King cast. It's just, as he puts it, one man's musings on the works of Stephen King. He was doing the same thing that the Losers Club are doing. He started reading them in chronological order and just gives his review of the novels. I believe he's finished. He finished quite a while back. And he's just been kind of doing little Stephen King related things here and there, like movies and TV shows. He's said himself he's not really sure how he's going to continue on, other than anytime a new Stephen King property comes out, he will review it and talk about it. And, that's basically it for Stephen King cast. It's a good podcast, again, if you love Stephen King and you just want to hear, even if you just you listen to a review of your favorite novel by Stephen King, it's really nice to just hear somebody just kind of recap the story, because it's almost like you're being told a story in a micro form. You're getting an entire novel's length just down to 2 hours, and it's fun to listen to. And finally, I have You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes is a actor and stand-up comedian. Again, he has celebrities on and they BS. For those of you who know who Bo Burnham is, I suggest you listen to every episode of Bo Burnham. They are like BFFs, man. They mesh so well together, and they're so funny. I've listened to those episodes a couple times each because they're just so funny. I really want to see them do something together in the future, a movie, a show, just more episodes together. It's very, very good. All right, I think that about does it for my podcast recommendations. I'm sure there's others I could have told you about, but these are my absolute favorites that when they have new episodes out, I immediately look and see if it's one I'm going to listen to. On the rare occasions, if there's somebody on there I don't know, I won't listen to it, at least not immediately. But these are pretty much the ones that are my go-to when I need something to listen to. I will look up episodes, search through their past episodes if they have a tremendous amount, like Joe Rogan's. Like I said, he's got almost 1,200 episodes, which is fucking insane. Maybe I'll get there one day or 1 year, because I haven't even hit 10 episodes yet, and I've been doing this 3-ish months, something like that. But again, I thank you guys so incredibly much for listening. I am so happy you guys have stuck around this long and are continuing to stick with me. Again, I will say that I am working on getting better content, more interviews. Things are in the works. It just, again, takes time for everybody to set aside time to do this for a couple hours, which is what I would like, even though if somebody wants to only give me 30 minutes, I'm totally fine with that. I'm grateful for anything I get, especially every single one of you listeners. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hit me up on damn near all the platforms. I have a Facebook page. Just look up I Love This Podcast. I'm not on there too much. It's just kind of connected to Instagram. Instagram is I Love This Pod. That's where you'll find me at most of the time. All the time. I'm at I Love This Pod 1 on Twitter. Somebody has I Love This Pod and they don't even use it. But again, that's just linked to Instagram. I'm not on there too much. I'm just trying to spread myself everywhere I can. I love this pod at gmail.com. If you guys want to send me anything, ideas, questions, comments, whatever. I'm not big on you guys trying to tell people to go rate me on iTunes and whatnot, although it's greatly appreciated if you do, or even on my own website, ilovethispod.com. I don't try to force people to go do all that stuff. If you guys want to do it, absolutely great. I love it, but I'm not going to force you guys to do it. Maybe in the future, if I'm getting constantly 1,000 downloads a month or something like that, I will ask you guys to do a little more, just because that helps with exposure and whatnot. But for now, I'm still fairly small. I have a very dedicated group, and you guys are awesome. Can't thank you enough. I will see you guys next time. Love it or shut it.